Hi, welcome to another edition of The Straight Scoop. I'm John LaRosa. This is the place for no-nonsense advice and free information. I have a BS in education, an MBA in marketing, and I've run a successful market research and consulting business for 35 years. I live in Tampa, Florida, and I just want to create a series of videos, common sense videos based on my own experience in 60 years, things that I've learned, things that will save you time and money and be valuable. Today, I'd like to talk about having a rental property and finding good tenants for that rental property. I have some experience in this area. We moved to Tampa in 1996 from New York. And a couple of years later, when there was a housing boom and a lot of people were moving to Tampa, there was an opportunity to make some money in real estate by either buying a house and refurbishing it and renting it out and then later selling it when it appreciated in value, or building a house from scratch and letting it appreciate. So that's what we did. We built a house from scratch with a local builder, a nice 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage house for, at that time, I think it was 1998, about $125,000, which is dirt cheap. If you live in New York or the Northeast, you know what I mean. You can't find a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house on Long Island in New York for $125,000, even 15 years ago. So that's what we did. We built a house and we rented it out for a few years. I guess about 5 or 6 years. We probably had about 5 or 6 different tenants. And what I've learned being a landlord is that it's always more work and time consuming than you think. Don't think that you're going to get rich overnight being a landlord and you're just going to collect the checks every month and that's all you do. Not going to happen. You have to spend a little more time and research up front, and that will save you a lot of hassles and money later on. Specifically, I'm talking about properly screening potential tenants before signing a lease. Some of the things that you can do to protect yourself financially and otherwise from getting a bad tenant are as follows. And I'll have a PowerPoint slide at the end of this presentation that you can look over more carefully with more time. So don't worry about that. If I go over some of these points quickly, they'll be covered in some slides at the end. One thing, trick that I learned from other landlords and through experience is when you run the ad in the paper that you have a house for rent and you meet the prospective tenant at the house, look at the inside of their car. If it's filled with trash, soda bottles, papers, ashtrays overflowing with cigarette butts, that's going to be an indication of how clean and neat they are. If they treat their car like that, how do you think they're going to treat your house? They're probably going to be just as dirty, and your house is going to go through a lot of wear and tear with them. So I found that this is a pretty good proxy indicator for how neat and clean a person or a prospective tenant is going to be. Look at the inside of their car. Ask them if they have any of the following dog breeds: a pit bull, a chow, a Rottweiler, a Doberman Pinscher, or a German Shepherd. Why? Because most liability insurance companies will not give you a liability policy if the tenant has any of these breeds of dogs. These are breeds that are more aggressive and statistically are more likely to chew up your neighbor's kid or somebody else or attack them and get you into a lawsuit. So absolutely, when you have your lease, make it clear to them that they will not be allowed in the beginning or during any time, or any of their friends will not be allowed to bring any of those breeds of dogs over to the house, either to live there or to visit there. Number 3, ask them what they do for a living. You'd be surprised what kind of response you get to your ad in the paper. I once had an exotic dancer, a stripper, apply to rent my house, and she wanted to pay with all cash. No references, no credit history, no other rental history references. You don't want to rent to strippers. Too many parties, income is too unreliable, etc. I think you get the picture. Next, if you take these steps to evaluate the prospective tenant upfront before you sign the lease, you'll be much more likely to get a no-hassle tenant that pays you on time and takes care of your rental property. It's especially important if you have multiple rental properties to manage. Okay, a couple of other things. Some things you also should do or must do. You should make the tenant fill out an application. Have an application, a standard one. You can probably find them online or in Staples or Office Depot, and you could probably find the standard leasing agreement there also, which you can modify. Insist on running a credit report. Now, how do you run a credit report? First, you'll need to get a release form that says that the person agrees to give you their social security number and permission to run a credit report on them. You're definitely going to need the social security number to run the report. You can't do it, and you can't run that credit report without their permission. So the way that you're going to run that credit report as an independent person is you should be a member of the NAIL, the National Association of Independent Landlords. And this will be on the slide at the end. I'll give you the website address and their phone number. The website address is www.nail-usa.com. But again, I'll give it to you at the end. The membership fee is $69.95 or $99.95 a year, and that includes 2 criminal history searches. So when you are a member of the NAIL, that's who will run the credit report for you. And usually it's something like $5.99, about $6 to run a credit report and get it to you the same day or overnight, which is essential when you're dealing with people that are in a rush to rent a house. You want to get back to them the next day and find out if they're qualified. So from that application that they fill out, you are going to, of course, ask for their employer. Do call the employer and confirm that they're employed there, how long they've been there, their income if possible, if the employer will release that. And if they're self-employed, that's a whole other set of things, the whole set of risks, a little more risky than hiring somebody who is employed by a company. You're going to ask for the last 2 years' tax returns, which includes their Schedule A if they're a sole proprietor, or their Subchapter S form if they're a corporation. But you should get 2 years of tax returns, including the corporate tax return, from them if they're self-employed. Carefully look at the credit report once you get it to see if they've declared bankruptcy or if they owe a debt to a previous landlord, and discuss any problem areas with them and try to get an explanation. And then I'll leave it up to you to be flexible and reasonable. You know, a lot of it is gut feel. You can tell if a person is honest and is going to be a good tenant, or if they're going to give you hassles every month. Avoid renting to a bunch of friends that are not related, because you're probably going to have personality conflicts, and one person out of the 3 or 4 usually leaves. So if you have 3 college students, let's say, that want to rent your house, they're all unrelated. A couple of months down the line, they have some personality conflicts. One guy decides to leave. That leaves the burden of paying the full rent on the remaining 2 people. And it may take those 2 people a couple of months, maybe 6 months, to find a replacement that's suitable to them and to you as the landlord to make up that lost income. So that could cause all kinds of problems. So it's better, really not to rent to a bunch of unrelated friends if at all possible. I prefer renting to families, and people in the military are great. They're very reliable. People that work for corporations, no problem. That's just some of my guidelines. So if you take these steps to evaluate a prospective tenant upfront, you'll be much more likely to get a no-hassle tenant that pays you on time and takes care of your property. So remember, this is your property, your asset, and you're in charge, not the tenant. It's your asset that you're protecting, and chances are it's going to be an asset that's worth over $100,000 to a couple of $100,000. So do a little extra homework up front to avoid evictions, lawsuits, and financial losses later. Something to think about. Take care.